Lovely to have your company tonight. 75 goals have been scored this evening across the Europa League. Let's just confirm the results in the late games, and congratulations to Rangers. Shea Ojo with an absolute thunderbolt, giving them the win at home against Feyenoord. That's a tough group as well, so a good strong start for them. And of course you can see that goal in the highlights with Matt Smith, which is coming your way at 10:30 this evening. Ludogorets with a big win, 5-1 at home for them against CSKA Moscow. If we have a look at the other page, I'm afraid to say for Wolves, it was a difficult night for them. They've had a hard start to the season, haven't they? Struggling for goals, struggling for wins, and beaten tonight 1-0 by Braga. And the celebrations on the away bench in that game were quite something. It was quite a fiery one on the touchline. They were delighted with that one. Manchester United beat Astana, and you can see there Partizan and AZ Alkmaar drawing, which is good news for United because it means in Group L, they topped the table. Look, early days, one game played, but hey, all the same, 3 points on the board and top of the table for them. OK, Michael Owen, you were younger than Mason Greenwood when you scored your first goal for Liverpool, but not an awful lot younger, so you know exactly how he feels tonight. I imagine he's more excitable than Nemanja Matic right now. A special night for him, huh?
It's very special because he's obviously been waiting for this moment. I think when you're that good, like he is, you know it's only a matter of time before you play. And even though he's so young, he's probably been kicking his heels for a little while, thinking, when am I going to get my chance? Well, tonight he's got his chance in no uncertain terms. I love the way he can go both ways. I couldn't do that. I could fake to shoot on my right and cut in, but then I wouldn't really want to shoot on my left. You know, it was a bit of a swinger, whereas he is left-footed, but he's two-footed. Great disguise. And then you pretty much, from that angle, you're playing percentages. You're thinking hard and low. You know, keep it down. Hope the goalkeeper opens his legs, because he doesn't to start with. And you're just taking a chance, really. But he does all the right things. He makes all the right decisions. Great feint to shoot, cuts inside, and a fantastic goal for him.
Do you look at him and see a future Manchester United player? His level is good enough for that?
Definitely. The one thing I would say is I would have thought I was excited to see him. I thought he was a bit quicker. But the one thing I'd like about him, he has a great feel for the game. Every time he touched the ball, there was a purpose to it. He didn't try and force things. He took what was there. And for a young kid at 17 to have that composure in the box, he had a picture of what he wanted, come on the left foot, chop. Like I said, like Van Persie, and a good finish. That's a top player. He's going to be a top player.
What I would say is that when you come into a team and you're a young player as good as he is, it's great to come in and think, right, now I'm playing amongst the big stars. Yeah. I'm playing with the Pogbas. I'm playing with all these great players that can. The problem is sometimes that you come in and you play, you know, with all due respect, very good team, but you're playing with a raft of changes. Only Rashford is
9 changes tonight.
Exactly. So you're playing with a lot of other. So he's doing this on a weekly basis, playing with most of these players for the under 23s. So he's desperate now to start with the big boys, and I'm sure they'll feed him even better ball, and he'll quickly prove that he's actually good enough to play in the first team already. What
more do you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to see from him to give him chances like this in the Premier League? Look, they've got rid of Lukaku. If you ask a lot of United fans, tell me an issue at your club at the moment, they will say, haven't got enough strikers, didn't replace Lukaku. Here he is. This could be him if he gets the opportunity.
Well, that's probably why, because he trusts him. He trusts Greenwood. He's seen him train. He saw him last year. They realise what a special talent there is there. That's why you make way. And that's why I think this competition could be the making of these young players. By the end of this competition, they might have had 14, 15 games. And you'll really get to know these young players. And they get an opportunity, a platform. I wouldn't be surprised if Man United went on to win this Europa League.
But you still see him as a Europa League player for United for now?
No, I think he could play in the Premier League. But, you know, with young players, it's about confidence. And you need an opportunity. And the team needs to be functioning, like Michael said. Man United are still working on getting the balance of the team. They've had injuries with Martial and Rashford. Is he going to play off the left or through the middle? But he's a piece of the puzzle that's going to be a big one.
So you go on.
He'll have a part to play in the Premier League, no question. One of the reasons they've sold some of the players that they've sold is because they're confident in him. And even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before the game said, I've played with a lot of great finishers in my time. He's right up there with the best of them. Yeah. And we've seen that. I mean, at youth level, he's done it. His goal record at youth level, I think the lads in commentary said it, is phenomenal.
46 and 43 last year.
It's phenomenal. He is a proper player. There's no question. In my mind, he's going to be a proper Man United player for a long, long time. That's how good he is. And he's 17, so he will... You know, it'll be blooded slowly, but I think he's probably already ahead of where even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thought he was going to be. I'm not saying they're relying on him, but he's actually a big part of the squad now, and they're thinking, put it this way, if they're in the Premier League and he's on the bench, you're thinking, right, he's our best chance of a goal here, you're getting him on. So he's ahead of the game, and he's only 17.
How old are you when you won Champions League at Bayern? Were you 18? First one?
20, I think.
You 20. So you were 20, you were 17 scoring goals for Liverpool. So it happened young for both of you. If Mason Greenwood is sitting here now, what would the advice be for taking a performance on a night like this and making it have an impact long term? What's the next thing for him now?
It's all a mental thing, I think. You know, he's good enough. So there you go. He's good enough. He'll think a little bit differently to a lot of the other players there tonight, because he's been probably carrying the youth team. He's been carrying the under-23s for a number of, a couple of seasons now. So he's already thinking on a different level to the other players. He's already thinking, golden boots in the future, getting into the full England squad soon. As soon as he starts playing regularly for England, for Manchester United, he'll be in the England squad. So his ambitions are far loftier than the Chongs of this world. Chong's thinking, give me game time, let me play it again in the Europa League. So it's just a mental thing now. He's got to keep on the straight and now. He's got to keep hungry and humble. And his natural ability, you just don't want to waste the talent. That's all, you've got to guard against wasting it. Do all the right things and he'll have a long and prosperous career.
Stay fit, stay healthy, and I think the sky is the absolute limit for him. I think he's going to be a really special player, but he's got to stay humble. I think if he stays humble, he could be anything he wants. Like Michael said, he could be top goal scorer in the Premier League one day. But I think he's ready. I think he's ready to take on that mantle. And I like that he can play multiple positions. He can play through the middle, can play on the right, can play on the left, can play as a 10. Then just got to find a way. What's his best position going to be? I
think it's important to say as well, tonight didn't make me think, I wouldn't be sat here saying anything different if he hadn't played tonight. If you'd asked me about him, I would have said exactly the same. I've seen him for years now. He is head and shoulders above anything of his age, really. He's brilliant, and he has been for some time. So I thought he played decent tonight. I didn't think he was, absolutely man of the match by a mile. He played decent. It's
just what the goal gives him, isn't it?
The goal gives him another bit of profile, and it's obviously great for confidence. But make no mistake, that is not a fluke tonight. He's here to stay.
If you can decide a game of football on this level, Europa League game, if you can decide it with a moment of quality, which it was. It wasn't lucky, it didn't take a deflection, that chop, everything was as he wanted it. That shows a player that's in control in those moments. And sometimes you watch the young players, they're rushing in those moments. He didn't rush, and I just thought that's quality for a young player.
I also think it's interesting when I ask you about what he needs to do next. Neither of you talk about being on the training ground a bit more, working on this, working on that. Both of you just talk about the mental side, the approach, the attitude.
It's all it is, honestly. Owen made a good point. It's staying fit. I mean, I had a bad injury early on in my career, and that killed me later on. But if you can stay fit, everything else is between your ears. He's got there. He's got the ability. He's got the size. He's got the presence. He's got whatever. He's been given that now. His body's that's it. That's what you've got to play with now. Everything else from now on is between his ears. How he manages it, how he doesn't get carried away, how he stays grounded, humble, how he still, practices hard. All these different things, it's all between the ears from now on.
And crucially, he knows he has a manager that will give him opportunities.
Yeah, I think because he's earned them. I think you get opportunities as a player. You get an opportunity, but he took it tonight. I
think maybe in the past you could create opportunities at Manchester United as a youngster and maybe not get what you deserved.
Yeah, but there's loads of young kids that get opportunities, but they fall away. We always say with the young kids, you throw them in, the good ones swim, and the ones that don't, they sink. This kid's going to be around for a really long time. And I'm excited to see that he's able to decide a game at 17 already. Even though the game wasn't majestic and it wasn't the perfect game, he had the moment of quality which decided it. And that says a lot about him.
I also love the way Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sort of trimmed down his squad, because I think one of the reasons that, Owen's right, that we haven't seen so many youngsters over the years. We had a huge glut, 20 years ago, and then we haven't seen that many come through. And then we've got a glut of players again now. And he's actually getting rid of the stuff around the edges that really, what do United want with a 30-year-old that's, a squad player anymore? Bring Twanzebe in instead of like a Smalling or Phil
We played
Jones
a little game in here, didn't we?
That.
I just ran through the whole team from tonight, the starting 11 and the subs, and we won't reveal all the answers, but it was basically keep, sell, or have them as a fringe player. Every single time the two of you said keep, it was one of the youngsters.
Yeah, but I don't think there's not a load of them that are going to be Man United players for the future.
Yeah.
But just think over the years how that business model has gone, and other teams are doing it now, Chelsea and the likes. But they used to play somebody in the first team in the League Cup game, 4 or 5 games. They used to sell them for right few million. That's what they need to do now. They need to start producing all these Chongs and Tuanzebes and Gomez. They're going to be probably Premier League footballers for the future. It might not be in a Champions League team, but that's what they need to do. Get these players coming through, get them, sold, some of them. Some of them will make it, as Owen said, sink or swim. But I think Mason Greenwood is certainly one that's going to swim.
The 2 highlights today were Tuanzebe and Greenwood.
Yeah.
By far.
Which tells you something. Good night for the youth. Good night for the Manchester United Academy. Was it a good night overall, though, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Manchester United? We know that this is a team in transition, but just remember, they played opponents tonight who are third in the Kazakh League, and they struggled at times. Let's talk then about some of those players that needed games tonight. We've spoken about the youngsters, particularly Mason. I want to talk about Phil Jones, Marcus Rojo and Fred. First starts of the season for those 3. Have any of them made him think, right, next Premier League game you're in?
No.
Short answer. No. To the point.
No. Well, they're just squad players, aren't they? Really.
All 3.
Yeah, it's going to take 2 or 3 injuries in the first team in a certain position for these types of players. Fred, maybe the closest to playing in the first team.
I think he's the fourth choice midfielder now.
Yeah.
Pogba, if they're all fit.
But they do play 3 in there, don't they? So, you'd say he could be reasonably close, but they're all squad players, and it's that's what they are really, and they're just going to be playing. The good thing about tonight is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be thinking, because they've won the first game, the pressure's off. They can continue now. They can just keep playing this team throughout this competition, nick another win or 2, and it's great. They can play in the League Cup. They can play in this competition. So these players are going to benefit from that. But these games are really beneficial for the youngsters. I mean, yeah, it's fitness and things like that for Rojo, but are they going to play? They're not really. They're just going to be squad players all season. Not going to play in any of the meaningful games, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you've been in a similar, Stoke, for example. You're sort of a big name. You've gone for big money over your career, and suddenly there you are struggling to have an impact. What if anything, can they do to work their way back in? What do you do in that situation when you see the team progressing around you and you're thinking, hold on a minute, this isn't working out for me?
Well, Owen used the term before, you sink or swim. You either have to get yourself up to that level, otherwise you're just going to be sat there as a squad player, and then you've got a choice. Do you want to play in the Europa League games and the League Cup games all your career, or do you think, right, well, I'll have to go to a lesser team and play more often? That's the choice, always the choice. And a lot of the players tonight you look at are going to be in that situation. They're just going to be playing in these games. They'll be delighted now that they've got a couple of competitions that they can actually play in, because otherwise, some of them are nowhere near the first team.
So they've played 6 games, won 3, only 1 defeat so far this season. After the first 6, how do you assess this United team?
Well, they got some work to do, and I think even Ole would appreciate that. I think the 2 games they've, the ones they've won in the Premier League, the ones they've won, they've had about low 40% in possession, so 42, 44, something like that against Chelsea and Leicester. So everybody's saying you're going back to the Man United way. But actually, they're not really. And I think now Ole's figured out the identity of this team. They're probably at their best when they can counter teams. When they've had a ton of possession, when they've dominated possession, like against Wolves and Southampton, they haven't really broke those teams down. Maybe because, like they were saying there in commentary, maybe it lacks a special player, a number 10, or maybe a Jadon Sancho type, But I think it's a work in progress. I think they've got rid of a lot of players, the older ones, the Lukakus and the Sanchez, and now they're going to figure out what they're going to get from these young players. I think if they can finish 4th, that would be a very good season. But they're still, obviously, a long way behind Manchester City and Liverpool.
I think they've almost come to terms now, personally, that we're not going to go down that route of buying players that are 28 or 26 or something like that for huge money if they're, foreign players, let's say. I think they've actually done that to death now. There's too many players that have cost them absolute fortunes and they've just discarded within a year or 2 of them. Yeah. So I think almost they're prepared as a club to take a couple of step back now and just think, right, we're going to give a few of these young kids a chance. We're going to look at their transfer policy over the summer, 3 youngish English players or Welsh player. So I just think that they've had enough really of that old setup that they had, just buying great players all the time and thinking they're going to fit in.
So the philosophy is youth,
I
right?
think so, yeah.
But what about in terms of the playing philosophy? Like, what do you look at and you think, right, I can see exactly what Ole has put into this team over the last 6 or 7 months?
Well, that's the thing that I don't know where it's going at the moment. I think there is a change from up top, thinking, right, we can't just keep throwing money after money after money at this squad. But actually, the way they play, I think we're still to see an identity. I don't, you think 20 years ago, Man United had an identity, didn't they? Tough in the middle of the park, lightning fast out wide, and always a sort of a number 10 off a top striker. They've always been like that, and that's just what you... But the last sort of 10 years, let's say, I don't really know. Are they a counter-attacking team? Sometimes. Are they a possession team? Sometimes, but not really. And I think they've not got a sort of... what's the word I'm looking for? An identity at the moment. Yeah. But I think they're searching for that. I'm sure Ollie's got an idea in his head, but I think the actual buying process and things, I think they're pretty set on the ways now.
I think they're building towards that identity. I think they've started the process.
What identity?
Well, first of all, young and British is what they want to work.
In terms of footballing sense.
Yeah, but Jake, it takes time. You don't with these young players, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. So, can you out football Liverpool, Manchester City? No. Can you? Their 2 wins in the Premier League have been counter-attacking wins against Chelsea and Leicester. That's fine. If you could, ultimately, you've got to find a way to win games. I think the next phase is you've got to get players that are going to make the difference. I think a Declan Rice makes a difference in this team at the base of the midfield. I think Jadon Sancho. It would be a perfect player for this team, and they need a number 9. Whoever that might be. But it's a work in progress. It's going to take time. But at some point, they're going to have to invest, because you've seen even City and Liverpool, they bought players
but we've just said
made
that's
a big
not
difference.
now the philosophy.
No, but you eventually have to buy. Declan Rice, he fits in here. Whatever he costs, 50 or 60, whatever it is, he fits in there, and he fits in the model of young and British. Jadon Sancho is nailed on for the team. Even if you pay 120 million for him, he's there for a decade. You can't almost overspend on Jadon Sancho. What I'm saying is, when you buy players that are going to play, 40 on, 50 million on Fred, you said he's fourth option. They can't afford those misses anymore.
Yeah. You almost feel like if it's to be a director of football, you want a director of football in there and then a really clear message to the United fans, right, this is now the plan, rather than just kind of fans trying to work out what's going on. I put a message out on social media to say, look, we're going to talk about United, what do you think? Ian said, huge mistake not signing a new centre-forward to replace Lukaku, as decent as Rashford is. I prefer him out wide. It'll take 3 or 4 years of rebuilding to have any chance of us challenging for the league. These are United fans. Shortman says, simply we're in transition. It will be really frustrating at times. I think we may actually be busy in January for once. Rob, the younger lads have played exceptionally well. Our defence has been improved. Team chemistry is missing. And Adam, our best moments have been when teams attack us. We can't break a team down. United fans are basically saying we need to be patient. This is transition.
I think it's a decent attitude. A lot of those words are ringing true. And let's just take one position. One of the chaps there said centre forward. So you go Lukaku or you go a Rashford and a Greenwood, let's say. So if Manchester United don't sell Lukaku, then what? He plays in the team. Is he good enough? Yeah. Is Lukaku good enough is he one of the top few strikers in the country? In the world? I don't think so. Yeah. So is it worth just saying, no, we're not going to have that, and we're going to give someone a chance that's going to flourish, and that has the potential to be one?
Well, look, we didn't go with youth in here tonight, but you both did a fine job. So thanks very much for your company.